this demo, we're going to make this kind of free floating gallery where images are all over the place, but they're all facing the VR camera. So you can look around, and even though the pictures are in different places, you can always get a clear view of each picture. This can also help just as a general tool for arranging things. So here we are in Blender. Make myself a little smaller there. Here we are in Blender, and I'm going to start by just deleting everything. So the essential components we're going to need for our space. Let's have a floor to stand on. So we'll just make plain and size that however we want. And then let's add a camera. So I've added a camera. I'll lift that up a little bit. Now I'm going to press Option or Alt-R to reset it, and then R, X, 90. So the camera is just looking, I mean, forward is relative in 3D, but it's just looking at, this is the direction it'll be looking at. So now we are going to use my favorite add-on, import images as planes. But before that, sorry, going over here, I am going to click in the scene collection, and I'm going to change the name of this plane to floor to really know that it's the floor. And actually, another little trick I'm going to do is I'm just going to put 0A floor. So it just goes to the top of the list. I can see it right away. I'm also going to take this camera and move it to my cameras section. Now, we could do some crazy stuff here with spotlights that are shining on our pictures, but I want to keep this a little simpler. So we are going to make our images emissive. And I have a specific video that I'm also posting now of how that works, but we're going to kind of do it in a quick way right now. So here I'm going to go to File, Import Images as Planes, and let's go. I'm going to use, let's see. I'll use these images here. So I'll select, I don't want the big panoramic one, so I'm just going to select, well, I'll just press Command. Just press A to select all, and then Command or Control Select here to just unselect those two. So I've got all these images selected. And here we've got some other settings, which we're going to look at before we bring them in. So here, for instance, there's this thing, use alpha. That is if the pictures have transparency. Doesn't really matter, but we'll just leave that. And then the next thing we're going to do is here in the material settings, instead of principled, we're going to click emit. And that means that these pictures are going to glow. They're not going to need any light shined on them. And now we'll hit import images as planes. And there's all our images there. Resume recording. We are recording. Okay, so we are recording yet. Sorry, my recording. Pause for a second there. We should be good. Okay, so here we have imported our images in, and they don't look like images. That's because we are not in material view. So if I switch to material view, clicking up here towards the top of the screen, now we can see that these are images. And Now, just to be fancy, while we're in material view, I'm going to click on my floor, and I'm going to give it a shinier material. Now, it doesn't really look like anything. Oh, it doesn't. We see some reflections on it, but they're not of our images, but we can see if we go into render view, it's actually reflecting our images. So maybe let's make it a little less, so it's kind of faint. Anyway, that's a distraction. Let's not worry about that. So back into material view, I'm going to just take this picture here, and we're going to add a constraint. So going down these tabs here, I'm going to press Control key so we can hone in on it. We can see this icon right here, and it looks kind of like a bike chain or a tape recorder. In fact, so we can see those a little better, I'm going to open Preferences and Interface. I'm going to scale up our tools a little bit, just for visibility. Okay, so there we go. Right there is our constraints tab. So we'll select that, and we will add a constraint. There's all these cool constraints, like following paths is a really useful one. We're going to do track 2. So there, we've added track 2. And now with this little dropper, I'm going to click on that, and there's a list of all sorts of things. We're just going to track it to the camera. And now we can see right away that that picture has like a line coming from the middle pointing right to our camera. So let's now hit Shift and select all these guys as well, all these pictures. Now it's really important to see that the first one, let's zoom way in on it. The colors can be kind of subtle sometimes, but this one is kind of like yellow, and these are red. Really, it's like yellowish orange and reddish orange, but that means that's our active. And if you're not sure, you can press Shift and just reselect the one with the tracking on it. Now that we've done that, we can click on this tab up here called Object. And here we have a Constraints tab. And here we have this great option, Copy Constraints to Selected Objects. And now all our pictures are pointing to the camera. So I can go ahead and just move them around the scene. And you can see anywhere I move them, they're still going to face the camera. Oops. Now, if you have a place to move these pictures to, like clearly right now, I'm just kind of making this up, but if we had a specific place to move these to, we would do it this way. If we want to, I'm just gonna bring all these down at the same time a little bit. If we wanted to randomly scatter these around, there's a few ways to do that too, which can be really cool. So let's do that right now. So I'm going to go ahead and select, well, I'll just hit A and select all, and then Shift to deselect my camera and my floor. So just a quick way to select all but 2 things. And now that I have those selected, I'm going to hit spacebar for search, and I'm going to type in random. And here's this option, random transform. And this can allow us to transform different attributes. So for instance, with the location, I could hit 2, 2, and 2, which means these are randomly going to move 2 meters on the X, Y, and Z axis. And if I want to further randomize the location, I can go to this option, random seed, and drag on it. And you can see it'll just scatter them differently, regardless of where I drag. I could also randomize rotation, but that won't matter because they're automatically going to face the scene. And the other thing I could do is I could randomize scale. So you can see some of them are getting wider, up to 4 times wider. So if I did minus 4.6, now it's Well, I guess it kind of looks the same because when you go more than -1, it just stretches it the opposite direction. But if you want to randomize these all at the same time, you click and drag down. And now any number we put will be the same for all characteristics. So now the scale of these images is randomized within a variable of 5 times. Notice that some of them are getting stretched, and to avoid that, we can choose this option scale even, and now it's just randomizing how much it enlarges them up to that. I actually don't want to randomize the scale, so I'll just leave that at 1 so that they don't change. I think I guess I can shift this seed around to see if I like something better. I mean, I don't know. I guess I wasn't that attached to my original version either. This looks fine. I'm just going to bring this up above the camera. I mean, above the floor. But that's just preference. And yeah, I think that looks fine. So now to see what this is going to look like in VR, I will go to render view. And you can see that even though there's no real light in the scene, the pictures still glow. And in fact, here we have this tab called the world tab. And I'm going to select that and I'm going to change the world to black. So really the only light is coming from those pictures. I'm going to go to my camera and I'm going to set the camera to panoramic like we would for VR, equal rectangular. I will go to my output settings and set this to 4,000 by 2,000. I will make this stereoscopic. I will go back to my camera settings, and going through this, we will find stereoscopy. Because this image has a lot of different depth in it, I'm going to make sure spherical stereo is implemented, which will give us better 3D looking all around. And now we can see what it looks like through the camera. And that kind of gives us a good preview of our panoramic scene. But there we have our scene, and then we can see how that looks in VR again in